Thank you, Julian, for facilitating this meeting, and thank you to everyone for joining us tonight for this virtual meeting. We tried this last week with the Vancouver Ancient Coin Club, and it worked out really nice, and I'm happy to be able to do it again for the North Shore numismatists. And this is a presentation that I prepared some years ago for two continuing education courses at UBC and then later at SFU. It comprises 7 lectures, starting with this one, Pre-Coinage Economies and the Invention of Coinage, and then Counterfeiting and the Development of Coinage, and then the periods of ancient numismatics as scholars study them, archaic period, classical period, Hellenistic period, Roman period, and later Roman period. So I promised to do all of those talks for the Vancouver Ancient Coin Club, and you're all more than welcome to join us when we do that. The first time we did this at the McGill Library, and then of course the virus struck, and I think if there is one good thing about the virus is that we are able to meet online, and we can record this, and we can put this on YouTube so that other people can also enjoy it. My first presentation to the North Shore numismatists was in 2006, I believe, that took place at a church in North Vancouver. That's where the club used to meet some years ago, and I wanted to do this presentation actually there. And unfortunately, we couldn't find a projector then. And then I prepared some photographs put on cardboard, and I presented my talk by showing those photographs. That was fun. I enjoyed that, and I think last year I also did a talk at the club. So, so this is my third encounter with you guys, and I'm happy to be here. So, pre-coinage economies and the invention of coinage deals with the economics of 7th, 8th century BC, and how the humans came to figure out to invent a means of exchange that dominates the world since it has started. And then I asked this question: what is the most important invention of the history of civilization? Of course, many people will have very legitimate suggestions. And I add to those suggestions coinage as a means of exchange to facilitate commerce and mass production. This is just food for thought. I'm not really claiming that it is the most important invention of the human civilization, but it is a significant one. The word numisma comes from Greek nomos, which means law, currency, division, and then numismatics, art and science of studying ancient coinage. The earliest documentation of ancient coins begins in Renaissance, like many other things. Wolfgang Lazius of Vienna published a single folio volume in 1558 as a specimen of estimated at about 700,000 coins. I have a smiling face there. That was his projection. That was he thought that he could bring together. But now we know that there are millions and tens of millions of coins to catalog and to learn from. 1898, 1927, a journal in International Archaeologie Numismatic in Athens started. It was one of the most prominent studies at that time, and during 1870s, the invention of photography contributed to coin publications. Until that time, people used line drawings, and they did a great job. If you ever come across those line drawings, you will be amazed, and you will appreciate the art the early numismatists put into their work. Photography helped Swiss scholar Imhoff Blumer establish dye studies. So Imhoff Blumer was one of the earliest scholars who went into detail studying different dyes. In 1873, the British Museum started publishing its own collection, a catalog of 29 volumes. They are still valuable and great references. And in 1931, Syllogi Numerum Graecum started in Britain. And it is it's the most important collection publication format adopted by almost all numismatists compiling catalogs in every country. So you have SNG, the acronym. You have SNGs everywhere, SNG Deutschland, Germany, SNG Netherlands, Copenhagen, SNG Turkey, where I come from. So SNGs are everywhere now. What's a coin? I'm sure you all know this, but I'm just going to quickly go over this. A coin is a means of exchange, usually round-shaped, bearing the official sign or badge of a state, individual or institute that guarantee the weight and pureness of its metal. Coins that do not deteriorate much, even though they were buried under the ground for hundreds of years, play an important role in research and understanding of the ancient world. Therefore, they are considered the miniature libraries of history. What is money in ancient world? Actually, everything was money. People got by using a barter system in which almost everything exchangeable was money. Food, being the basic need, was the biggest commodity. Precious metals, especially gold and silver, were well known long before the invention of coinage. However, commodities in barter were not always easy to carry along, and a commodity at hand would not always match another which was needed. So they needed something to facilitate the exchange. Now let's look at the ancient world and see what it was like before the invention of coinage. Now, we don't have, unfortunately, surviving storefronts. The Roman cities excavated everywhere showed that there were stores everywhere. However, except for Pompeii, we were unable to come across a storefront where everything was intact, so that we could know, what kind of material they had in the store. And most of those items that they might have in their stores were organic, and they simply disappeared in the course of time. However, these two shipwrecks excavated off the coast of southern Anatolia gives us a glimpse of what it was like to have a shop. In this case, it's a shop in the form of a vessel, a ship. The Uluburun wreck from the Bronze Age carried 10 tons of copper from Cyprus, 318 four-handled copper ingots, each nearly 23 kilograms, 31 two-handled ingots, and a ton of pure tin ingots. Guess what they were projecting to do. And then they had 150 glass ingots. They are shapeless, just round shape. They're not worked. Obviously, this was not coarse material. It is work material, but ready to be reworked. And some other commodities from the Uluburun wreck worked and cast gold lumps in many different forms, silver ingots, many different forms, glass beads, millions of them, literally millions of them, a goblet, a gold goblet, a seal, a gold medallion, woodbuck's writing tablet, elephant tusk, hippopotamus incisors and canines, ostrich egg, agate and faience beads, oil lamps, statues, swords and daggers. So back to the items here. The goblet might be the order of someone, a king or an important person. I cannot really imagine that one of the crew members would want to enjoy his wine in a gold goblet. And then this gold medallion from the Canaan is really interesting. What was it doing in the cargo of the ship? Was it purchased to resell in a different location? Who knows? The elephant tusk, I can understand. Ivory was an important carving art material. If there was another use for it, I don't know. Ostrich egg, who knows what they were using them for. Beads, of course, for ornamentation. Oil lamps, maybe they simply used the oil lamps in the vessel during the voyage. Or we don't know how many of them existed in the cargo. Maybe they had hundreds of them, thousands of them. They usually don't survive in the sea, after a long time. This bronze female figurine had hands and feet clad in gold is certainly a special item. It depicts the worship of a certain mother goddess. And of course, the most important item here for me is the seal of Nefertiti. The beauty that has come is inscribed on the seal. It's also gold scar from the Akhenaten time. So these are some of the items excavated in that shipwreck. Invention of coined money, according to Herodotus, was the work of the Lydians. However, Herodotus only says that the Lydians used gold and silver coins for the first time. He doesn't really say that the Lydians invented the coins. All the same, all indications, all excavations, and other evidence that we gather from the ancient world indicate that Lydia was the beginning of ancient coinage. The metal of the first coins was electrum, a natural ally of gold and silver found in the silt of the river Pactolus. Now, why do we talk about this river Pactolus? It is because of a mythological, a very well-known mythological story. I'm sure you're familiar with the myth of King Midas, Midas, as we say in Turkey. This is from the Ovidius Metamorphoses. If you haven't read that book, I really recommend it. It's really funny and enlightening. So this Phrygian king Midas was a greedy man, and he wanted to be very rich all the time. One day, his men found this old drunkard, and they bring this drunkard to the palace, and Midas immediately recognizes him to be Silenus, one of the companions of Dionysus. And so he wines and dines, knowing that he is a good friend of god Dionysus. And then when he is sober, he takes him to the god Dionysus. Dionysus was so happy, he says, make a wish and I will grant. And the King Midas wished that everything he touched would turn to gold. And but Midas's wish turned against him because he soon discovered that he was going to starve. He wouldn't be able to eat and drink. Whatever he touched turned to gold. And then he went back to Dionysus and begged him to remove the spell. And finally, Dionysus said, go to the Pactolus River and wash, and a golden touch will wash away in the river. And that's how mythology tells us that the gold, or in particular electrum, is found in the silt of Pactolus. All the same, if you go and check the remains of the King Midas at the Anatolian Civilizations Museum in Ankara, Turkey, all you see is bronze. They found no gold in his tomb, and most of them are bronze vessels. The Lydians, it's well worth studying. It's a very, very interesting people in Western Anatolia. They started off around the central western part of Anatolia. They are known since the time of the Hittites. Apparently, until they were extinguished by the Persians, there were 3 dynasties. In and around 680s, Gigas became the king of Lydia, and the previous capital was Hydas. It was somewhere northeast of Sardis, and he moved the capital to Sardis. And he was the first king of the Mernadae dynasty. He took it over from the Heraclidae dynasty. The story, of course, this is a myth, not history. History only begins with Croesus, of course. The Candalis, the head of the Heraclidae dynasty, had a very beautiful wife. Apparently, she was very charming, and he was so fond of her, and he loved to brag about the beauty of his wife. And Gyges was his friend. And one day he was talking about his wife again and says, "You need to see her in private. Otherwise, you will not believe me." No matter what Gyges says, he cannot convince him not to do that. But the woman takes it really offensive. And when at night, Candalis secretly lets Gyges go into their chamber, the woman notices that, and then the woman comes to Gyges and says, "You have to kill this man and become my king." And that is what Gyges does, according to the story. And that's how Gyges becomes the king of Lydia. And the dynasty that he started lasts until the time of Croesus. So these are the four kings known for Lydia: Gyges, Artis, Sadiotes, and Alyattes. And then finally the last king, Croesus. And then the Lydian civilization dies. Most of the coins, earliest coins, are attributed to the time of Alyattes, 610, 561 BC. The last king, Croesus, was a very ambitious king. The map here shows his achievements at that time. The war between the Lydians and the Medes at that time, the predecessors of the Persians, continued for more than 25, 30 years, on and off. They gained land from one another's country, but around 600 BC, the Lydian kingdom stretched from the Black Sea all the way to the Aegean and the Mediterranean, almost half of Anatolia. And before the big war, the king Croesus goes to Delphi, to the oracle, famous oracle, and the prophecy encourages him to enter the war with the Medes. The oracle says a great kingdom would be destroyed. Unfortunately, it turns out to be his kingdom that was to be destroyed by the end of the war. However, when you look at the archaeological evidence, you can substantiate the wealth and correlate to the fact that this was a very serious, wealthy, strong kingdom that accumulated big wealth, and they were capable of managing an invention like coinage. Here is the tumulus of Aliates, about 355 meters in diameter and 63 meters high. It's one of the largest tumuli in the world. And unfortunately, it was found and plundered in antiquity. So we don't know what was in, but just the size of it tells us that it was an important king. Giges, from early on, adopted the image of the lion as his family's royal symbol. So this is one of the earliest coins that we can call a coin. Together with the earliest coins comes a strict weight system with strict rules. Most of the time, we call the largest denomination about 14.5 grams, sometimes 15.5 grams. We call them one stater. And then we have half staters, thirds, quarters, sixths, eighths, 12ths, 1/24th, 1/48th, 1/96th. An unbelievable denominational system that tells us that the economic system was developed enough to create all these different denominations. When we look at the Lydian denominations, the largest one is 1/3 stater, 4.73 grams, this coin. They come in various slightly different weights. 4.5550 is the lightest ones. Sometimes you see 5.1, 5.2 grams. But mostly around 4.50 grams. And then you have smaller half and 1/3, 1/4, 1/5, and 1/48, and finally 1/96th of a stater. This is unbelievable. Even though this smallest coin was very valuable to purchase, say, a loaf of bread or even a chicken. It was created to be used in commerce. Unlike many archaeologists believe, I claim that these coins were created to facilitate commerce, not for big payments like army campaigns and such. By the way, stater is a Greek word, means weighing, weight, a standard unit. And hectos, again, means 1/6 of a unit. All these names that we use here are modern inventions. When you read ancient authors, they don't mention any names for any denominations. They simply say gold pieces, silver pieces. You read a lot of sestertius in Roman history, but and hardly denarii. These are all, even though denarii are known as a coin denomination, earlier coins, unfortunately, have no denominational names that we know of now. Some of the earliest Lydian electrum coins are inscribed with names in ancient Lydian script. And two prominent names, Walbet and Kukalim, were noticed. However, it is not clear whether these are names of kings or just rich merchants who produced the earliest coins. And I mostly weigh on either rich merchants or a moneyr, a supervisor assigned by the king to control the minting of coinage. The tradition continues. If you look at the banknotes now, you usually see the signatures of central bank directors, mostly around the world, not the names of presidents or others. Even though we see the images of monarchs on coins, they are not the ones that minted the coinage. This continued until the time of Alexander the Great. Anyways, this one is supposedly reads Kukalim, and as you will remember, I gave you the names of the Lydian kings. There's no one nearly similar to Kukalim in the dynasty. And then you have Walbet here. Again, no personage, historical or mythological personage is known by this name. However, it is very curious that from the earliest times that we see coins with inscriptions. So that tells us a little bit about the literacy of the ancient people. Even though it's just one word, maybe just a name, yet it is inscribed, of course, for a reason. A little while ago in 2017, this coin appeared in the coin market. And as I mentioned from the earlier times, the numismatists and ancient coin dealers wanted to attribute most of the early Lydian coins to Alietes. And this one says a lambda, ypsilon, and almost another alpha here. So almost it says Alietes. This looks a little dubious, a little too obvious to me. However, I'm not in a position to go out and say that this is fake. But it's sold for a considerable amount of money, and so whoever purchased it will be part of the debate for the years to come, unless they begin to find other examples, especially in other denominations. In my view, this coin is going to carry a big question mark on it. In any case, it's not impossible that Alietes struck coins with his name inscribed on them. Before we see the coins of the Lydians, again, in the market, we come across a lot of ingots in certain weight standards. This one is worth 6 staters, so it's 92.41 grams. So based on the weight of this lump, we consider that 1 stater for the person who cast this was 14.5 grams. And then here is another piece that was chopped into two, most likely, if not more. This is 71.11 grams. And finally, here is one, 10.72 grams. These are all ingots found who knows where and by who. So when there is no archaeological context, it's hard to believe if they are real, because as you see, they're very easy. They don't have any art or artistic features on them, and it's very easy to produce them, or it looks easy to produce them. I don't know. I always approach these lumps with a certain reservation, unless they come in different denominations and they show similar characteristics in their production. Yet, these are not coins. These, we do not consider them as coins. They are valuable, standardized, precious metals. They might have been used in trade. They might have been purchased in exchange for a certain amount of commodities, but they were not coins yet. And then we come across these items. I call them items because we still don't consider them to be coins. Yes, they are marked. On the obverse, we have some chisel marks. We call them saturated types. And on the reverse, we have punch marks, but they were intentional. Both the obverse design and the reverse design were intentional. So they are the beginning of coinage. And as I mentioned before, they come in different denominational weights. So 14.5 grams, 17.5 grams, 4.50 grams, mostly 2.25, 116, 124, and it goes on and on all the way to 196 grams. They are following a certain pattern of intentional strikes. Just to give you a perspective of this, one of the smallest denominations. This is not the smallest one. These are two coins from my collection. This is 0.96 gram electrum coin. This is the obverse, no design. The reverse is, I think they simply cast it in a clay mold, and this is just the top of the cast. So it's shapeless on the on one side, and the other side is in the shape of the mold. And this is a silver coin from the 5th century. It's again a very, very small coin. And how did people make sure that they didn't lose these small precious metals at that time is an amazing thought that you can ponder on for hours, if not days. And immediately, as soon as the Lydians start to, or as soon as whoever created this denominational system, the weight system, you see different designs coming up from every part of the Aegean, the Western Anatolia. Not yet from the other side of the Aegean. only from the eastern part of the agency. And from later examples, we can safely attribute this rather obscure designed coin to Miletus. This is the city of Miletus from the 6th century, 550s most likely. And this is an earlier coin from the same city using very similar punch marks. The earlier ones had no design in the punches, but later on, the artistic ambitions of die engravers simply led them to show their art, show their imagination on the coin dies. And more denominations are attributed to the city of Miletus. And then, of course, the designs on the overs, reclining or crouching, and lion turning his head and roaring. Obviously, it's an imitation of the Lydian idea, maybe just to give a legitimation to the coins of Miletus. They adopted the image of the lion. However, excavations proved that there was a statue of a lion crouching, or crouching like this one and turning his head and roaring, found at Miletus. And on the reverse, we see punch marks with different designs again. Then we have some very enigmatic and at the same time very interesting series of coins that we would like to attribute to the city of Ephesus. It's one of the earliest inscribed, or the longest inscribed, or a coin with the longest inscription, I would say, comes along. This one, for the first time, is inscribed in the Greek language. So we can literally read what's inscribed on it. It's retrograde. So it is Phanos,
BC.
Ami, Sma. So apparently it has two meanings. Either I am the badge of Phanos, Phanos is a name, or I am the sign of the bright one. So bright one, of course, is Artemis. I'm sure you will know the important cult of Artemis at Ephesus. So the scholars would like to connect this coin to Artemis. And that's why some scholars believe that Phanos means the bright one. And of course, stag being one of the attributes of Artemis simply leads us to believe that these coins were struck at Ephesus. And as you see, they come in various denominations, even down to 1/96 stater. There are many uncertain early Ionian coins that come in many different types. Here is an enigmatic one. So this one was, again, cast into a clay mold. So this is the lower part. This is the upper part of the cast. And apparently there is a geometric whorl pattern struck on this part. And apparently this was struck when the coin was really hot. Hence, we see the cracks around here. Later on, the mint workers discovered that striking hot has many challenges, and one of the most important challenges was, of course, getting lots of cracks on coins. The other one they would later discover would getting the dies heated up very quickly and eventually destroying. So they started to strike cold. And then we have, from the earlier times, we have the figural types. When I first saw these figural types, I felt really thrilled. And the artistic achievement of the earliest coin die engravers is amazing. You have a saturated background and an archaic face of a bearded man and a roaring lion facing that figure. And on the reverse, we have first a punch mark in the middle, and then another punch mark on top of that. So this was applied first, and then these two applied later. And then you have this one. Obviously, this is a smaller denomination. Yet, I suspect, like many other numismatists, that they use the same one die to strike coins in different denominations. This one simply is very similar to the figure here. Remember, these are really, really small coins. And of course, they come again in other denominations. And I see this one, I would like to think that this one is a female figure. So I don't know if the intention was placing the head of a female, a goddess maybe, if not a queen, on a coin. And if the standard is right, and if the attribution is correct, Foçay, modern Foça in Western Turkey, had the coin of the first female depiction on it. And then here is a male head with a kind of crown. The numismatists simply described it as a crested diadem, but it looks like a crown, modern, our modern way of thinking of a crown, it looks like. Was it Midas? Who knows? And this figural type just appeared in the market in January this year. And it's again a very enigmatic coin. You have a rider here galloping, and you see a hound. It's not a dog. It's certainly a hound. But in front of the hound is another animal running. Is it a hare? We don't know. Then we have these different design types that we call geometric types. This one simply the coin die engraver did his best to make it different from any other known issue by any other mint. And again, nobody knows from which mint it comes. And this one, a geometric type raised swastika pattern. Then on the reverse, quadripartite increase. This one, a figural type, a palmette motif on the obverse, and on the reverse we have a punch mark. And here we have the head of a lion facing to the right. More uncertain Ionian types. And if someone tells you that abstract art was created in the 19th century, don't believe them. Abstract art was known centuries ago. Facing lion head, a crab, a bridled horse, a ram, and the siren standing left, a mythological figure from the Odyssey. Many other cities were identified minting coins. Phocaea is one of them. And this is almost certain Teos, because we have the same head of griffin on the coinage of Teos struck later. Samos, mostly facing lion figures. And this one is really interesting. Eagle flying, wings, eagle from seen from above, holding a serpent in its talons. Ephesus from early on adopted the bee as the symbol of their city. Bee is another attribute of Artemis. This one, people would like to identify as a bee, but I believe it's an ant. However, we need to see other examples to make sure what exactly it is. And Mylassa from Caria, from the late 6th centuries, early 5th century, maybe 580s. And Kyzikos, one of the most prominent cities on the coast of Marmara Sea. Later on, Kyzikos would become a very important trade post and issued many beautiful coins in electrum. Croesus, the king of Lydia, as mentioned by Herodotus, issued the first gold and silver coins. And it was quite a revolutionary introduction. I don't say invention because the coinage had already been invented, but using a metal that is rare, limited its spread and use widely. Now the discussion is, was the electrum used in the first coins a natural ally, or was there a human intervention? The excavations at Sardes revealed that they simply had the technology to combine metals in smelting, and there is enough evidence to believe that electrum was, even though available, found naturally, to mint so many coins in so many different cities, in so many denominations, would not be possible to procure. How will you find so much electrum to export, to mint coins in so many different cities? So it was probably something that the early coin issuing people thought that they could limit to prevent forgeries. But by the time Croesus decided to change that idea, it was simply limiting the power of this incredible invention. So gold and silver were introduced as coin metals for the first time by Croesus. And he created his own denominations from the beginning, both in gold and silver. So the heavy stater would be 10.5 grams. Rarely you see 11.2 and 3 grams once, but mostly under 1070, 10.2, 10.3. Yet it is admirable how they managed to cast that kind of accurate weight metals. 8.3, 2.70, 134, 0.67, 0.45. There are smaller ones too. And the same is true for silver. There are smaller ones. And the image changes with an addition of the forepart of a bull facing a roaring lion on both silver and gold coins. Again, several years ago, this coin appeared in the market, and it is again enigmatic, if not suspicious. And the tradespeople wanted to call it pre-gold, silver Croesus coins. Why they want to call it Croesus? Because we see the same animals, yet they are facing opposite directions, which is not seen in art. So this is, if it is a legitimate coin, it was intended to be really different from any other types, or a modern forger's imagination, and he or she wanted to create something unmatched, and you know, in both cases, and in ancient time and modern times, they achieved their goals. They created something unique. There is no other example like these. But of course, again, our question mark is going to hover on this coin until other examples in different denominations begin to appear in market or in excavations, hopefully. When the Lydians were defeated by the forces of Croesus the second, the Achaemenid dynasty took over the Lydian realm. Yet they didn't have any coins at the beginning, so they continued using the coins of Croesus, or the same types, for quite a long time, until during the time of Darius the First, Darius, between 522 and 486, started to use his own empire's designs on coins. Yet the Lydian types continued to circulate alongside the Persian designed coins. And on the obverse of these coins, you have the great king running, holding a ball and a spear. There are different types. In this one, the great king is depicted kneeling and shooting a ball. In others, sometimes the king is depicted holding a dagger and a ball, and so many different types appear, but not as rich in terms of types as the Lydian and Ionian types that we see earlier. I have so coin making techniques were not so difficult yet, even though it looks simple. It was a process that required a lot of expertise. I have a short video to show you here, and hopefully this will work. Oops, just a moment. I need to get out of the presentation, and I'll just start this. This is not long, quite short.
Bekircan, this is
Yes?
Julian. Yeah, we can't hear anything or see the video.
Oh, okay.
Would it be okay if we?
This one doesn't have audio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're still not seeing anything.
Oh, you don't see?
Nope.
Oh, I thought people saw the video.
We can't see it.
Oh, I thought you didn't hear it. Just okay. Well, I guess the last time we did this, the video worked fine, but for whatever reason, this one didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're kind of running short on time anyway, so
Okay.
shall we
Okay.
wrap
I'll
up
just
and-
I'll just continue. But if you go to anticoanoa.com, you can see this video. And in the following presentation, in the next presentation, we have a similar video that shows an experimental strike of ancient coins. Again, it was not a very difficult process, but it took a lot of expertise to strike coins. And here is a coin from the Roman Republican time that shows the coin striking apparatus. So it was a well-known process by certain experts, but not people walking out in the street. Okay, and so by the time we came to the invention of coinage, seal engravers were ready to work with the mints. Engraving was well known since the earlier Hittite and Egyptian times. Mesopotamian seals are well known. Egyptian seals are well known. And a small number of dyes came to our time. There's always this discussion that these were the forgers' dyes, but nobody really knows if they were really the forgers' dyes or legitimate dyes. Some of them are simply associated to certain coins. So we know that they were quite realistic, striking coins. But again, since we don't know the archaeological context, we're not in a position to attest to their legitimacy, unfortunately. And preparing the blanks was an issue from the beginning. They first started using dyes like this, and then they went into mass production in this way. How do we know they use this? And here are two photographs, the obverses and reverses of the same coin. And apparently they used the stick, the complete stick in this format to strike coins. And it makes perfect sense. So one person was holding the stick of cast metal blanks, and the other person was striking. And this was simply unseparated, left as is. And here is a silver coin from Akragas in Sicily, separated with a chisel. And you can see the connection here. And then, of course, they said, why don't we cast coins directly? But apparently that process was not favored by all the mints, especially the quality was not so impressive. Early Romans favored that system, later to abandon and go to the original striking system. From the beginning, we see counterfeits. Counterfeits have always been the nightmare of every legitimate mint. I'm sure you will remember these blank ones, and then this interesting design, the palmet design. Unfortunately, you see the precious metal plated base metal forgeries coming from almost every mint. No mint was immune to forgery at this time. Just like the coronavirus, no one is immune to it until a vaccine is created for it. To prevent forgeries from circulating, they came up with some ideas. They used bankers' marks. This early Lydian coin has 14 bankers' marks on it. It's a very, very remarkable example. So every merchant handled it, put his own mark on it, and it became something historic in its own right. And then, since they knew there were forgeries circulating, they decided to test cut them. The Athenians passed a law in 375-74, which provided for a dokimastes, or a tester, to sit near the banking tables in the agora and test coins. Coins, whether they were coins received by the tax collectors, government tax collectors, or merchants suspecting their coins, would go to these testers and get a test mark, test cut done. And if they are found to be counterfeit, they were slashed and withdrawn from circulation. There is quite a bit of material to read and study the early coinage. And here I give you a list of them. Some of them are available online. Others are available at the UBC library. I don't know if you have access to the library. Not at this time maybe, but later when we normalize again after this pandemic. But almost all of them are available at the UBC library. I would recommend that you try to find Coinage, archaic and classical Greek coins. It's from 1976, but it's a very, very comprehensive book about the beginning and early ancient coinage. For modern research, Koray Konuk and Lorber's White Gold, revealing the world's earliest coins from 2012 is a good reference. They have beautiful photographs of those early coins from the museum in Jerusalem. So you will find it very informative. Lindsay Lohan's Electrum and the Invention of Coinage is also interesting. Others are more scholarly work that you can read and research if you like. Thank you very much.